Everybody wants to see Chopper come back into the story more powerful and more stronger than ever. And I believe I've got the evidence to support that that is actually going to happen. Being a mythical zone within the show is one of the most prevalent things right in your face that Oda does a perfect job of hiding from you. Oda wants us to think Chopper is this cute, happy-go-lucky little reindeer mascot, but that is not the case. You see, we learned back on Chopper's Island that there's a myth about a special mushroom that can cure and heal any disease. And this was fine because we assumed that Chopper was going to go find it or had already found it, or the fact that it just didn't exist at all. And what supported that was the fact that the mushroom Chopper found, the Miyudake mushroom, was the wrong one. It was a fake, it was poisonous. When Chopper learned about this mushroom in the book that Hiruluk gave him, he saw the skull and crossbones and remembered what Hiruluk told him about pirates. And because of this, Chopper thought this meant freedom. This is exactly what I'm looking for. But it never made any sense for the Miyudake to be the mushroom that can cure all things, because every time this mushroom is shown, and Oda made sure to show us this mushroom 3 different times, the outline for the mushroom was never the same shape as the Miyudake mushroom. There's only one mushroom in the show that's ever been shown to match the exact same shape as the one hinted back on Chopper's Island. And that's Chopper's devil fruit itself. I mean, when I tell you the shapes are almost 1-to-1, when putting them next to each other and looking at them, they are literally almost 1-to-1. And these are the things I would call what are your first hints at what Chopper truly is. And to reiterate it, that is a mythical Zoan. Chopper himself likely already ate the mushroom that can cure all things. It's his devil fruit. And that's why when you take a look at all the other Hito no Mi users in the show, they have mythical fruits. Chopper is the only Hito no Mi user that has no base model, no nothing. And if Chopper is just supposed to be the different variations that humanity could possibly be, then why does Chopper not have a model? He should just be model human. But Oda makes sure to let you know there is no model name for Chopper. So that again really begs the question, what is Chopper? Well, let's start with the fact that aside from his devil fruit, he himself is mythical. When first looking at Chopper's homeland, Drum Island, it's actually based off a place in the real world, and that's Drumhaller, Canada. They're known as the Hoodoos. Not only does the town's name bear a striking resemblance to Drum Island, but the Hoodoos found here, which are a very popular attraction, also look very similar to the Drum Rockies within One Piece. And what kind of confirms this for me is when looking at what Oda told us about Chopper and where he would be from, he said Chopper would be Canadian. And there is a very popular mythical cryptid there, known as the Wendigo. This was the birthplace of the Wendigo, and the Wendigo had many variations and many depictions of it throughout legends and stories. But these are the ones that should really resonate with you. And why? Because when putting those side by side with Monster Point, you see what's going on here. Chopper's got a Canadian background, Canadian-based homeland, a Canadian-based transformation. Oda himself is trying to tell us that Chopper himself is a Wendigo. And put that aside from his devil fruit. Just Chopper as a being is a Wendigo. And we already were told how this happened. You see, Wendigos are usually human in origin and cannibalistic monsters. It takes a specific set of circumstances to really create a Wendigo. And those things are starvation, cold, and loneliness. This causes your spirit to be corrupted and the spirit of the Wendigo to be able to take over the human body. And a person might start even exhibiting selfishness, violence, hunger, greed. And one of the main things they greed for, or have greed for, is human flesh. And of course, that means nothing to Chopper. He's just a happy-go-lucky reindeer. He would never eat anybody. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Oda already told us that in a bad timeline where Chopper hates Luffy for some reason, he would be taking sacrifices. And look what he looks like. A Wendigo. Would literally be eating human flesh. This would have been our Chopper had something gone wrong in the timeline that would have made Luffy fail his goal or dream and made Chopper hate Luffy. And remember the recipe for creating a Wendigo. Starvation, loneliness, and cold. And looking in Chopper's backstory, he has every single one of those. He was lonely from the beginning because he was ostracized by his family for having a blue nose. And this got worse for him when he ate his devil fruit because he could now talk and he was even more different. This is what caused his family to kick him out of the herd. And this was Chopper's first true experience of what loneliness actually was. He then experienced it for a second time when he tried to go and make contact with humanity because he now thought, hey, if I can talk and be like a human now, might as well go and try and talk to them. And boy, oh boy, did we see how that went. They immediately ostracized Chopper the same exact way. They even were shooting at him and thought he was a monster. So now Chopper has really experienced loneliness. And now he's wandering through the cold, starving and hungry. And not just that, he's shot and bleeding. He's hurt. He's literally losing blood, about to die. And this is where we see Chopper down and out under the tree, literally ready to give up. Chopper now had the aspects of a human within him, and not just that, he also had the aspects of a reindeer. He didn't know what he truly was, and neither did anyone else, and because of this, he was ostracized. And this moment is where Chopper gave up and allowed his spirit to be possessed by the spirit of the Wendigo. And in order for a Wendigo to even do that, you have to be human. But remember, Chopper now has a human fruit. He is human. He has that humanity in him. And so that's what made this possible. Chopper's devil fruit. And that's why Chopper's monster form now takes the form of a Wendigo. His fruit is almost, as you can say, corrupted. This is not Chopper's true awakening. Chopper should be looking more. Chopper should be doing more. He should be more. And that he surely is. Because besides the fact that he is a mythical cryptid known as a Wendigo, Chopper himself is also another mythical creature, and that's a Tanuki. Yes, the same very thing that we see them always joking and calling Chopper and him getting all pissed about. I believe, and I'm going to be one to tell you, that Chopper actually has that within his blood. You see, the first thing that made me think about it was the fact that Oda always made sure characters were calling Chopper a Tanuki. And within legend, it stated that Tanuki were mythical shape-shifting creatures that could take on 7 or 8 forms depending on the legend. And what's connected to Chopper is Chopper has 8 forms pre-time skip, including Monster Point, and 7 forms post-time skip. And I don't think Oda does many coincidences. And then you look at this SBS that Oda gave us, and he tells us what Chopper's biology is. 1 part reindeer, 1 part deer, 1 part human, and 7 parts Tanuki. And what's funny is if you look at the SBS where Oda first explains Chopper's forms, he doesn't even consider Monster Point as a form pre-time skip. So technically, Chopper had 7 and 7 forms pre and post time skip. And then Oda is sitting here telling us that Chopper is 7 parts Tanuki. And obviously the human aspect would now come from his devil fruit, which combines with his lineage factor, his entire DNA. And the reindeer aspect comes from his family. But the problem is, he's also part deer. As far as we knew, Chopper's only been a reindeer and fully a reindeer up until this point. But apparently Chopper's a mutt. Someone in Chopper's family had a little bit more within their lineage. And this could also be where the Tanuki aspects that are possibly within Chopper's blood come from. And so now when taking a step back at looking, we see that Chopper's already got 2 mythical deities he's based off of. Or should I say just 2 mythical beings in general. And those beings, one being the Tanuki, a mythical shape-shifting creature that could take on 7 forms or 8 forms depending on the legend that you're reading. And the other being a mythical cryptid known as the Wendigo, a creature that was created from starvation, cold, and hunger, and a creature that heavily fed on the flesh of humans and hungered for the flesh of humans. And you would think this was the last mythical deity that Chopper would be based on, and he wouldn't have any more mythical revelations. But let's not forget, Chopper's birthday is December 24th. Chopper also has a very bright blue nose for a reason and shares the same backstory as Rudolph for a reason. He's based on the mythical deer Rudolph. And the story of Rudolph and the mythical revelations that you find within there is really what hits home for you that Chopper himself is likely just a mythical being. You see, Chopper's birthday being December 24th and him being based off of Rudolph, you got to look within Christmas's origins or the story of Rudolph's origin. You see, Christmas was actually a pagan tradition that we technically stole from them. You see, back a long time ago, the pagans used to celebrate the winter solstice, and the winter solstice was Christmas Eve at that time. Nowadays, it's more around December 22nd and 23rd, but we're talking about back in the day. And they had a special myth about a special deer deity and the sun goddess. You see, the deity was named the Deer Mother of old, And the dear mother of old was known as the light-giving mother. She pulled the sleigh of the sun goddess during the winter solstice across the mythical skies during that time. And she was who brought the light of the sun throughout the world every morning. And taking all the mythical revelations we've had into account and putting that next to Chopper, you can now see why Chopper's first introduction is him pulling a sleigh, and Chopper's big epic moment with Luffy in front of the moon is him pulling the sleigh, and Joy Boy being highlighted within the moon. In this moment, Chopper was essentially pulling the sleigh of the sun god. And this connects also to the 1000 Sunny, but I will touch on that here shortly. And that's because the other things that we learn within the story of the Dear Mother of Old tell us some really crazy things about Chopper himself. In fact, I will be the one to tell you this is the exact thing that one-to-one is the myth of Chopper, and that Oda likely used to base and create Chopper. Within the story of the Dear Mother of Old, we learn that the deer's horns are the most prominent and the most important things about them. And when it comes to a reindeer, this is even more prevalent. When it comes to the females, they actually retain their horns in the winter and lead the pack, whereas the males lose theirs so they get to the back. And this is why this is very important, because the biggest horns and the most prominent horns are the ones who lead. This is what really characterizes them. And this deity, the Dear Mother of Old, had very distinct depictions of her horns. This is because her horns or her antlers were the most worshipped thing about her, and they were always adorned on shrines or antlers that were for the Dear Mother of Old. Her horns were always depicted as the tree of life, carrying the birds, the sun, the moon, and the stars within them. And by now, your mind should have already been spinning, because when you take these images and you put them right next to the Chopper's new horn point that he gets from Torino Kingdom, you have again almost one-to-one depictions of Chopper's antlers matching up to the Dear Mother of Old's antlers. And when taking a closer look at this image, we see that we have a deer with Chopper's literal hat on. That again, Chopper got this hat from Torino Kingdom. And when taking a closer look at this image also, this also depicted the Dear Mother of Old's horns as the tree of life. And in it, it held the sun, the moon, the birds, and the stars. And if you look at just the base form of this tree and put it next to Torino Kingdom, those are the same things. Again, almost one-to-one. The only thing I see missing from this are the deer's antlers that make up the tree of life. But again, those antlers are likely now on Chopper's head, seeing that his now share the same shape. It's also stated that within that tree of life, the birds were held. And Torino Kingdom is characterized and ruled by giant flying Goya birds. All these things shown to us within the story of the Dear Mother of Old are shown to us within One Piece. And to further that, what's also within the story of the Dear Mother of Old is the fact that she was heavily associated with the Amanita mushroom. And the Amanita mushroom was actually a red and white toadstool mushroom similar to the Miyudake within our story. And you can actually see where Oda got the name from. The tradition of this mushroom is actually where we got the story of Christmas from. Shamans would essentially journey through the horns or the antlers of the reindeer. And I kid you not, they would literally drink the reindeer's pee. And this would actually allow them to enter a hallucinogenic state. And upon doing so, they would take a journey or a quest through the antlers of the reindeer. And so these shamans and their reindeer would go around collecting these red and white toadstool mushrooms known as the Amanita mushrooms. The reindeer would eat them, and the shamans would collect them. And then they would journey to people's houses and leave mushrooms within their homes. Red and white toadstool mushrooms. And this is exactly where the colors of Santa Claus came from and the story of Santa Claus comes. And the Dear Mother of Old even had her own special cookies on these things known as Kozulia. And I kid you not, when I looked at this image, I almost did a backflip. That is Chopper in his hybrid form. And then we've got several deer-like forms below him. This was probably the most insane thing to have ever come across my face. And this here is what told me that Chopper was more. Chopper was likely a mythical Zoan, and not just any. You see, back in Skypiea, they gave us a few gods. These were the sun god, the god of the forest, god of the land, and the god of the rain. And then they gave us 5 children, the Medaka Remy quintuplets, on the same island that we first learned about Joy Boy. Their names were Ichika, Nika, Sanka, Yonka 1, and Yonka 2. And these children's names would mean absolutely nothing if not for the fact that the red child shares the same exact name as our god Nika. Something else to note is the rest of these children's names all follow the same number order in Sino-Japanese. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4. And this therefore shows you that there's correlation with these names also with the fact that they have the same kind of connotation in writing. But the biggest thing about these children is the fact that their colors coordinate with the gods who were given to us back in Skypiea. And if Nika matches up with the red like fire, when looking at this green child, this is who we want to pay attention to when thinking about Choppper. And just like the red coordinated with the fire of Nika, the green should coordinate with the life of the forest. Your forest god's name is Ichika, and Ichika happens to translate to 1,000 flowers. And of course, upon initially hearing this, that there's a forest god, you would think that, oh, the first likely candidate and suspect is Green Bull. I mean, he's got the woods fruit, which is almost perfect. He can create forest life, and he's on the opposing side, so it would make sense to see an opposing type of god. But this is a video about Choppper and his mythical revelations. And when looking at Choppper, right after Wano, when Green Bull is also introduced, we get Chopper's new bounty. And what number does it go up to? 1,000. And Chopper's entire backstory is all about flowers. The pink cherry blossoms, those are your 1,000 flowers. Green Bull is a smokescreen, so we would not see the truth of what Choppper is. And that is a mythical Zoan, the forest god Ichika. That is the devil fruit that he holds. And remember how I stated earlier that in the Dear Mother of Old's legend, she pulled the Slay of the Sun goddess. And the topic that we would revisit was the Straw Hat's brand new ship. And the name of the ship says it all. The 1,000 Sunny. That's your exact Slay of the Sun god right there. The ship that him and his crew ride on. And no, I'm not saying Chopper's going to be magically pulling the 1,000 Sunny through the mythical skies of the world or something like that. What I'm saying is the sun and the forest god are connected and intertwined. And this is why beetles are so important to Luffy. Because beetles are the symbol of the sun. They symbolize rebirth, regeneration, and renewal. And that's the same symbolization that the Dear Mother of Old and her antlers give off within the Tree of Life that her antlers hold. And this is why every time Luffy has found a very important beetle, Chopper has been there. And we know how important beetles are to Luffy because Luffy literally couldn't decide between if a beetle was important or the One Piece. And Luffy has never, ever put anything or considered anything against his dream of finding the One Piece and becoming the Pirate King. But a beetle, the symbol of the sun, is the one thing to do so. And with all that information in mind, it makes complete and total sense why when Chopper takes his new horn point form that he gains from Torino Kingdom, it takes the form of a stag beetle. And even Luffy assumes that Chopper has a new stag beetle form. And all in Fishman Island, Oda was throwing hints at us that Chopper is more. Even within the story of when Jinbei is telling the crew about Blackbeard's deeds throughout the world, he has Chopper state that Blackbeard was possibly hunting him for his powerful fruit, and it's the same guy who went to his homeland. He makes sure he has Chopper to revisit that. And that's because Blackbeard is hunting powerful fruits. And what fruit would be more powerful than the Hito no Mi model Ichika, the fruit of the forest god? Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch my first long format video. I really had fun making this video for you guys. I hope you guys love the format, and if you guys could leave some feedback on what you guys thought about the format of these videos, I'd really appreciate it so I can make these videos better for you guys to enjoy and for everyone else to enjoy. And I'm planning to make plenty more of these types of videos for you guys. This was one of my really long ones. The next few might be more around the 5-minute, 7-minute period, and then we'll do another really long format video. But it all depends on how you guys feel about this format in general. So, as always, please leave me your feedback. And if you could like this video and leave a subscription to my page and turn on your post notifications, you'll be staying tuned and active for whenever any new One Piece updates are coming from me. And as always, if you love One Piece and want to see more content, you guys can go check the links in my bio and head over to my TikTok or my other social media pages. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.